What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since we had some Hail Caesar action, so continuing on the series here. So previously we looked at the Franks. We're going to take a look at the Huns today. So the list that we're presented with here is from the 4th, 6th century, so certainly time period of Attila and then others as well. But again, probably most famous for Attila. So the list here is overall pretty decent, although again, some changes could be made, but let's dive right in here. So cavalry, 50% or more of the army, so you could go 100%. That being said, then there is a position here for the infantry, and we'll get to that in just a moment here. It's a little bit different than the other lists, or most other lists. The Hun light cavalry does have to be 50% of your cavalry, which kind of makes sense, right? Hun cavalry and a Hun list. No surprises there. Now the infantry here is infantry has to be 25% or more if it's included. So let's spell that out here. So if any infantry are included in the army, then at least a quarter of the army's units must be infantry other than skirmishers. So that being said, you can't just get around with one infantry unit, again, maybe unless you're playing like a really small list or something like that. But like a 4-unit force here, probably something small points. Really, you're going most likely in a fairly decent sized game. So again, if you're going to bring in the infantry, now we're not counting skirmishers, so there's a little bit of a skirmisher package as usual. But if you're going to, in any serious capacity, bring in infantry, it's got to be at least 25% or more, which is interesting here because you still have to respect the cavalry element. So you couldn't just go all infantry as a switch here. So at most, really, you could do a 50-50 list, which is, again, pretty fair and not, I shouldn't say fair, but pretty balanced, right, between the two types of units there. Now, subject 50% plus levy. What are we talking about here? So where subject units are included, at least half must be levy. It doesn't matter which units are rated as levy, so long as levy comprises at least half of all subject units. And we'll get into that in a moment, because the list does reflect a lot of the conquered peoples, and we'll see that as we go through here. And then at least 4 units, excluding skirmishers, must be per division led by commander. Bodyguard cavalry, however, do have to be in the general's division if they're present. And then a typical skirmisher breakdown here. So the list is interesting. So noble Hun cavalry armed with javelins and or spears and bows. So you might as well, just take everything, right? Javelins and spears and bows. A kind of a do-it-all unit here. And interestingly, the nobles can be upgraded here with Kontos. So not 100% sure if that's specifically their actual armament or what it was there. But nonetheless, just a really cool unit that can also be pretty hard hitting. So, and again, key here, heavy cavalry. So wonderful clash of 9. It certainly drops off though. Still excellent in ranged capacity for being such a heavy unit. So again, it can kind of do it all. 4-up save as you'd expect. No other special rules on the noble unit here, so interesting there. And pretty decently priced, 32 and then +3 for the Kontos option. On the other side, the light cavalry, again, with spears and or javelins and bows, again, basically just a light version of the above unit, and then these guys actually have feigned flight. Now, these guys are small units, so you can certainly make sure that the flanks of your heavy cavalry are protected, and again, these guys can just certainly add plenty of missile support. So a very scary start here. Again, if you did want to go all cavalry, you're going to be all across the board, and it's not like you're losing shooting capacity whatsoever compared to any or most other lists here. So and having that feigned flight option is pretty neat too. Then we have another flavor of cavalry here. So this is just subject cavalry. So again, conquered peoples, not actual Huns, but nonetheless, it's a solid medium cavalry option. But again, keep in mind we have to make 50% levy here. So again, where subject units are included, at least half have to be levy, so or more. But anyway, so with spears and or javelins and bows, so we had more of the same here. You kind of get in the picture, and we do get a little discount there to make them levy. But nonetheless, I think if you're doing it right, you should be forcing the opponent to deal with the actual Hun units. You still have these medium guys that can hit pretty hard as well. So again, just so much that can be brought to bear so fast on the enemy. So if they're not ready to deal with cavalry in this kind of capacity, it's going to be a pretty simple day for you if you can get all your orders passed. Also, subject heavy cavalry, as if we didn't have enough of that. And again, the discount to make them levy. But again, just more or less across the board, just a regular heavy cavalry unit, this time without bows. So these guys just have spears, but again, it's more firepower essentially as far as getting in there and doing some solid close combat work. Then we get into the infantry. So we have subject, medium infantry, spears, and or javelins. And again, basically just your average medium stat line here. So 23 points a pop there. Now, again, there is the levy restriction there below. So, however, extra to make subject infantry, heavy infantry with spears, up to half of them. So you gotta still respect all the things that you have to do there. But if you're feeling a decent size of infantry, you could certainly make the lesser medium infantry ones just levy, but then actually include a couple of decent, just heavy infantry units if you were looking to go for that as well. Subject light infantry archers. So again, as just further missile firepower, here you have that in the infantry variety here, and these guys are going to be small units. So, and we do have to make them levy, but again, your typical light archer profile there, nothing special with the list there. Skirmishers with javelins, again, our basic skirmisher package here. So small unit javelin skirmishers, although we only get the one unit, and also one bow unit if we so desire. You might as well take it. So not too much in the way of skirmishers here, so not that that's necessarily a downside with this list. The everything you have above here with the cavalry is just, it's not necessarily any true elite units. There's not really much in the way of special rules in this whole list, except for the feigned flight there on the Hun cavalry, but they don't necessarily need it because you can just have this in quantity. There's not really that many restrictions. So now the noble unit, again, the one unit, it's going to be in your general's division, sure, but you have enough between the regular Hun cavalry, the light cavalry, and then the other subject, medium and heavy cavalry, to just more than seriously mess with the opponent. Now, again, there is a little bit of restriction there on the medium cavalry, up to 3 units. You might as well take them all because, again, you should just be throwing, and same thing on the heavy cavalry subject. So, max those out and then just fill in the rest with as many Hun units as you can. If you feel like going infantry, you can certainly back that up. But, that light cavalry is going to be doing a lot of work, but overall you have so much cavalry to throw at the opponent. And, again, unless they're really prepared for this kind of just all-on cavalry assault, assuming, again, your orders go through, it can be pretty rough pretty quickly there. So then everything finally is here with commanders level 8, or leadership 8. So kind of the only thing disappointing, I think, was maybe like an upgrade to get to like leadership 9 or something like that, with like actually being able to like fill Attila or something like that, and maybe some other sort of special rules. So overall, it's a little bit bland again in the special rules department. And now it's nice, again, we have the one feigned flight rule. I would have loved to see maybe the noble heavy cavalry, the sort of like guard unit there, get something, not necessarily elite, but maybe maybe stubborn or something else. I don't know, just something, again, just to set them apart a little bit and make them feel just a little bit more special. Again, that should be something, I think, for sort of all the sort of noble guard or general's guard type of units, especially heavy cavalry. Would be nice to see something like that. So should they be the best of the best across kind of all the units we've looked at so far? Probably not, but certainly I think we could go a little bit more from just being generic. So, but again, with the way the game is, you can certainly house rule that, and if you want to add a little something there, the rules, I think, do allow for some house ruling and modification there. But overall, just a fun list. Again, lots and lots of cavalry. If you like cavalry, obviously this is going to be a list for you. If you're not so big on cavalry, not sure why you would be going with the Huns, but maybe in smaller games you could kind of go with a more of a 50-50 approach with the cavalry and infantry. Could be fun too, just as a painting and hobby project, just to represent other conquered peoples. Assuming you can get the various models and just figure out how you're going to represent them all on the tabletop. But again, could look pretty cool. So overall, not a bad list. Would have liked to see a couple extra things, but hit us up in the comments there, guys. What are your thoughts on the Huns? Anything you would change here? Anything that maybe in a someday in the far future, if Warlord gets around to doing a second edition of this, what are updates that you would like to see for the Huns? So hit us up in the comments there, guys. Like and subscribe. As always, thanks so much for hanging out, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.